families have a financial incentive to take our children from us, to take us as parents, most often fathers, but also mothers. They reduce us down to visitors to justify child support order. And when they justify child support order, the state then receives federal funding through what's known as Title IV-D of Social Security Act.
I did a great job and raised them myself pretty much. Their mom did what she had to do to help out, but she didn't allow the system to come in and force me to raise my own kids.
My daughter died. No one told me. And her mother still collected child support.
Let's go, Sarah. Come on, sweetie. Yeah, I understand, sweetie.
You know, I know a lot of you are going through the very same things that I'm going through right now.
I spent 15 years in prison because I didn't have my biological father there to influence me.
Anything you want to say? You're being accused of shooting a cop, killing him.
Society not letting me see my son. I lashed out at somebody that didn't deserve it.
85% of youths in prison were raised by single moms.
I haven't seen my son since November.
Like I said, I got one I ain't seen in 15 years.
I haven't seen my kids since December 2013.
I've been on house arrest for 2 years now for wanting to be in my daughter's life and being a father.
This doesn't just happen to men, this also happens to women. Mothers are alienated as well.
I'm personally a victim of a corrupt family law system.
They're being told by their father that your mother don't want you. She abandoned you. Do you know what this is doing to my children?
As President of the United States, I will do everything I can to address this inequality that impacts those.
Casualties of war. Warriors against the regime.
Has the family court system damaged your relationship with your child? Were you shocked by how little due process there was? You're not alone, and now you can be part of the solution. For the last 11 years, Mark Ludwig has led the charge for shared parenting reform. He's met face-to-face with over 700 legislators, hosted over 70 events, and pushed legislation in 31 states just last year. Now he's building something bigger. The A-Team, trained advocates in all 50 states. People like you stepping up for kids and real change. By joining Mark's Legislative Leadership Development Program, you'll get strategy sessions with Mark and guest legislators, on-demand training videos, research and AI tools to influence lawmakers, and a seat on Mark's legislative team. We're meeting with lawmakers in just 2 weeks, and we want you in the room. Don't just hope for change, be the reason it happens. Join the movement, join the A-Team. Visit stlmarkludwig.com and click the membership tab to get started.
It was such like a tug of war with whose side are you going to choose. I realized like it was just tearing me apart.
It was always, you're on my side or you're dead to me.
The first time my dad saw me, I was in my grandma's arms in a courtroom.
It really felt like she didn't want anything to do with me.
It's hard when you have to stop and think that your child wants nothing to do with you because of what they've been taught.
One parent gets to be a parent and the other gets to be, at best, a visitor, and at worst, completely erased. And a lot of it has to do with our judicial system.
What I remember about being in court was having to lie to the judge.
It destroys lives, it bankrupts people every day, it tears children from their homes, and just so happens to be a $50 billion a year industry.
If you don't pay your child support, you're going to go to jail.
Walter Scott decided to bolt from his car. Court documents show he owed more than $18,000 in child support payments.
These fathers are not deadbeat, they're dead broke.
Nothing I said mattered. None of the evidence I brought forward mattered. The judge wouldn't even look at it.
He's nothing like I was told he was.
If there's 22 million adults dealing with this, that's over 22 million children. And the mental health consequences are severe and long-lasting.
It's heartbreaking to me to see how many of you are dealing with this.
My dad was erased from my life.
It's happening all over the world.
This isn't a father's rights issue. It's not a mother's rights issue. It's a human right issue.
My daughter here and I have been alienated from each other for the majority of her life. She called me and said, "Dad, it's time to move home," and she came home.
If the court worked in a way where there was 50-50 custody, I'd be happier. I wouldn't feel a void because I've never known a life where one parent wasn't missing.
A new bill would make default custody 50-50.
How come we don't have shared parenting in the law? It's called special interests.
We need more clarity in law to support what is best for children, shared parenting, and this helps move in that direction.
I want to show people that it can have a happy ending.
In about 10 minutes, we're going to leave for the courthouse so I can legally readopt my daughter.
We go by many names. Dad, Padre, sometimes old man. Usually it's Daddy. Daddy's the favorite. But they all mean the same thing. They all mean father, a man in relationship with his children. We're the Father's Rights Movement. Because every child deserves a father. We're working for justice in the family court system. Support fathers' rights. Come join us today.
I just wasn't going to allow my kids to grow up without their father.
And having absolutely no relationship with him, it hurts. It really does.
I'm a business owner. I'm an elected official. But the courts didn't think I was good enough to raise my kids.
There could be no system that would be designed to hurt the family more than the family court system in its present form.
They're not protecting the kids because they are cutting one parent out of the life of a child just because two adults can't get along.
What do people do when their children are taken away? And she said they pay their child support and shut up and walked away. And I thought that was the most accurate encapsulation of my experience in family court.
I've been through 43 false allegations, not one conviction, not one arrest.
Lawyers, judges have financial gain. Social workers and people that are in the community, our jobs really is to clean up after the mess that happens from courtrooms.
If you've been wanting to get active in getting legislation passed to help kids across this country, we're looking for you right now. Right now, I am currently putting together teams of people in every single state all across the country, all 50 states, in addition to an A team at the federal level. But to do that, I need people that are trained, that know the basics. I need to make sure that you know everything you need to know when you're meeting with legislators, how to handle objections, how to be able to talk to them. So we've set up a legislative leadership development program where for $30 a month, you'll have access to a complete database of resources. You'll have information on all the research that has gone on in the past, the Linda Nielsen research, the Richard Warshaw, the Bill Fabricius. You're going to have some of my training videos on how to meet with legislators, how to handle objections, how to give a testimony. We've created an AI tool where you'll be able to write letters to your legislators. So to join the team, go to STL Mark Ludwig, and there'll be a membership button on there. So go to stlmarkludwig.com, STL for St. Louis, stlmarkludwig.com, click on the membership button, and join the team. And every month you'll be updated with new information. In addition to at least once a month, I'll do a live town hall where you'll be able to interact with me and we can talk about what's going on in some of the different states, what's going on here at the federal level, and you can get direct access to find the information out. So to do that, once again, go to stlmarkludwig.com, click the membership button, and we will look forward to you being a part of the team in 2026. All right, good evening, guys. I think I'm live. At least I hope I am. If not, I'm just rambling here in my living room to myself. Anyways, I do want to welcome everybody to the Friday night Facebook Live tonight. We've got a neat program tonight. I have two special guests coming up for you tonight. One of which, the first that we're going to bring on is Mehdi Akacem, who has quite a military background, and he's teamed up with his buddy Erhan, and the two of those are two of my top military issue advisors. I haven't served in the military. My dad did. My dad was at Aberdeen Proving Grounds in Aberdeen, Maryland in the Army, but I didn't serve myself. I am very aware, though, that there are a lot of military family or military non-custodial parents that are highly affected. Here's people that serve our country, and unfortunately, the very service that they gave gets used against them as their kids end up getting stolen from them. And it's just really, really a shame. So we're forming a special committee to start working on things at the federal level. And there's going to be some things at the state level too, but especially at the federal level. And like I've always said, nobody wants to be think they know everything. You need to build a team that you can collaborate with other people. Everybody has a strength and everybody has a weakness. And if you're going to try and be the strength in 20 different areas, you're going to ruin it for everybody. So rather than me try to be the military expert, why don't I find some people that I believe are pretty darn good? I've spent quite a bit of time on the phone on Zoom meetings with these guys. These guys know what they're doing, and very, very impressed. So we still will be adding more people to the military team. We're going to be doing it in a streamlined fashion. You never want to grow too fast. Ultra fast growth can create chaos, and we don't want that. I'd rather have a manageable growth so that we can have a very, very professionalized system and a systematized approach at the federal level. So the first two people that I've picked to be advisors on this issue are Medhi and Erhan. Erhan couldn't make it tonight, but we do have Medhi. So Medhi, why don't we go ahead and bring you on?
Hey, good evening, Mark. Great to see you again.
Excellent. Hey, thanks so much for doing this. And also, just so everybody knows, I have Levi tonight. He's in there playing video games in the other room. He just got done doing a little jog. He's running cross country, and cross country practice starts next week. So we did a little run out. He ran. I didn't run. I watched him run and carried the water bottle for him. But he ordered some pad thai that's going to be arriving sometime in the next 10 or 12 minutes. So at some point, you'll see me turn around and say, "Hey, Levi, your food's here." And in case you're wondering, what the heck is Mark yelling at there? But pretty exciting to have Levi here. He could spend all day on the video games if I would let him. But it's saying his food arrives at between 8:40 and 8:50. So anyways, back to the topic at hand. Medhi, why don't you, if you can give a little bit of your background, but also any disclaimers that you need to give, because I think you have to give some disclaimers. So give some background on yourself, and then whatever disclaimers you need to give at the same time.
Thanks so much, Mark. And trust me, I think I certainly get the having to juggle, professional passions and parent stuff. So totally get it. I love to see you doing that so successfully. Captain Mehdi Akacem, call sign Metro. I'm an active duty naval aviator. Because I'm still in uniform. So here's the disclaimer. Anything I say this evening cannot be taken or should not be construed as in any way representing official DoD or Navy policy. While obviously Mark's expertise as a legislative strategist and very astute political operative is critical to all the equal shared parenting initiatives countrywide, and therefore anything we talk about proposed solutions necessarily has a political or a legislative dimension. Nothing I'm saying here should be construed as advocating for a partisan cause. And I think we may be privileged to have a lawmaker on later this evening. My talk here is not an endorsement of any political candidate. If there's going to be dialogue, it's issue based, and I don't think anyone can reasonably say the struggle to maintain parent-child relationships post-divorce is in any way politicized, even though it may require contact with the political process. So with that said. Again, an active duty naval aviator. I've been in uniform for about 26 years now, commissioned, privileged to serve for many years in my capacity as a naval flight officer, a backseater, a goose, if you will. If you need a Top Gun reference, flying, I flew the EA-6B Prowler and then the EA-18 Growler, deployed 5 times, Iraq, Afghanistan, Kosovo, Western Pacific, South China Sea. It's been a while. I'm old, and so I get a desk job now, which as a father trying to balance military obligations and my primary passion, which of course is being dad. That's actually a great privilege, and so I use that privilege of not being in a deployable or not being in a imminently deployable status to stand up and advocate for those who are more, kind of in the maw of the struggle of being both parents and deploying or just, very busy training, operating, military members serving our country. And there are lots. So, I'll walk through a few of the specific barriers that I think military members face when child custody conflict rears its head, and then we can as time allows, Mark, we can do some sort of Q&A, or we can talk about some of the proposed solutions and ways ahead, because we don't want to just get stuck observing problems and not look forward as you constantly lead this community to stay focused. So I think, the root of the issue where military service member parents and their, military affiliated kids are more vulnerable in family litigation, I think, derives from a fundamental mismatch of expectations. Every facet of military life is thoroughly governed by federal law, federal regulation, and military policy. If you, for example, if you live on base, and you've heard me say this before, you get your house, your pay, your medicine, your medical care, your child's daycare, your school, your public safety, your police, fire response, potentially your place of worship. All of that exists on the island that is your military base. And it's, from a community perspective, one of the things that makes military family life great when it's great is the tightness of the community, sort of the shared sacrifice, the shared understanding between military families and service members who are friends with their peers who have families, but maybe single themselves. But then, and you know what? And we have our own courts. We have our own body of law. We have our own criminal code. We don't have our own civil code. But the Uniform Code of Military Justice, it also covers pretty much every aspect of life for the service member. If you're overseas, your family members are sponsored through the State Department by virtue of your military service, and they have special status in the country where you're based by virtue of being part of a military family. So, literally, I challenge anyone to identify a part of family life that isn't military family that isn't thoroughly regulated by the federal government, and therefore, when you all of a sudden find yourself, for whatever reason, when families unfortunately come apart, you find yourself at the mercy of a state that you may have no relationship to. From a technical legal perspective, the very concept of state residence and state citizenship for military families doesn't exist. There is zero consensus. So by default, military families are federal citizens, and yet the entire, tradition and body of family law is considered to be the provenance only and exclusively of the states. And I think that's fundamentally wrong. I think, if there were to be a test case, I'm pretty sure, I'm no lawyer, but I'm pretty sure one could make a winning argument that the states don't even have the expertise or technical jurisdiction to handle child custody because the military family life is so thoroughly federally regulated. So with that as a precept, the obstacles that, the unique obstacles other than, the obvious one, deployment, being gone for long periods of time, arduous training, even if you're not deployed, as a sailor, I've been stationed on an aircraft carrier, and heck, during 2020, during the first year of the COVID pandemic, our training schedule on my ship was 30 days at sea, 30 days at home in Norfolk, and on and on and on. And that obviously, once we understood what COVID was, the initial sort of public health rules of that ROM and social distancing, like completely incompatible with a densely living shipboard environment and that tempo of back and forth. And so what did we end up doing? We ended up staying for 2 weeks on our ship to let COVID burn its way through the crew and then get underway. And so in that year, we ended up having, I think, more than 230 days stuck on our boat, even if a lot of that was literally at the pier where you could go up on the flight deck of your ship and look over and see your house in a neighborhood 5 miles away, but you can't go home. So you don't have the takeaway there is you don't have to be deployed to have your life fully encumbered by your military service. So, the stereotype of extremes, let's talk about that one. In the public narrative, it seems that service members and veterans, you're sort of you're put on a pedestal, thank you for your service, and held in high regard. And as a service member, I am eternally grateful. A great mentor of mine once said, if you're uncomfortable, when someone comes up to you and says, thank you for your service, just say thank you for your trust. And that's what I try to do, because it's an incredible amount of trust that each and every one of you watching, and all my fellow Americans, it's an incredible amount of trust you place in us and each and every one of your service members to go out and do the things to keep a dangerous world over the horizon rather than on our shores. So there's that, or there's the trauma, PTSD addled, violent or ticking time bomb veteran stereotype. And unfortunately, I don't think when you get into an adversarial situation, when so much is on the line, so much is at stake in child custody, which brush do you think the veteran or service member is going to get painted with? It may not be effective. It may eventually serve only to point to the bad faith of the other party. But the problem is that brush can even be brandished against a service member, that presumptions or stereotypes can go right to the heart of the matter, and try to paint someone as either a dangerous person or an unavailable parent, uninvolved parent by virtue of their service. To me, that should be a precluded argument. That should be fully out of bounds. But certainly there's it's hard to imagine how to appropriately have a system of justice where topics are excluded, because there might be something there. So it's a fine needle to thread. The next barrier would be what we call the PCS penalty. PCS meaning permanent change of station, and that just alludes to the tempo of change, of geographic change in a typical military member's career. Every 2 or 3 years, you're getting orders somewhere new. It's possible to do what we call homestead, depending on your career field, depending on your seniority. You might be able to stay in one geographic location for several consecutive assignments, but you certainly can't commit to that. And the needs of the service will always kind of carry the day in terms of where you go, and that's even in peacetime. So from a practical perspective, moving every 2 to 3 years is challenging, but it's a rewarding and it's a grit building lifestyle, both for adults and for kids in general. There's a lot of studies that indicate that military kids thrive ahead of their equivalent socioeconomic peers, civilians, because that adversity of moving frequently, if you're in a healthy family environment, and you have that that whether it's a single parent household or a dual parent household, as long as you got that safe base, the opportunities afforded, and the social challenges of having to make new friends and start over and acclimate to a new school, that's hard for any kid, but it makes for a more well-rounded child in general. But that's a hard story to tell in court. So the PCS penalty, it's too easy to paint a service member parent as highly mobile or without a stable base, and then you get to, even if you have a highly if you're in a non-confrontational divorce and separation, the practical matter of, okay, what's the co-parent going to do? Are they going to follow the military, continue to follow the military parent around the country? for the purposes of ensuring that the military child, has equal access to both parents. That, I mean, if so, hats off to them. That's phenomenal. But military spouses are already at a huge penalty in terms of their ability to have a career. And there's statutory framework there. There's hiring preferences for military spouses to ensure that careers that are highly desirable, value added, even for a highly mobile professional, teaching, nursing, things with professional licensure. There's licensure reciprocity to make sure that you can move from one job to in one state without having to be tail end of the line to get relicensed. All that exists to overcome a sacrifice already baked into military family life. But how would it apply in a now separated family construct, even with highly cooperative co-parents where one's a civilian trying to have a separate household and a career? That's a tough question that isn't I don't think has a ready answer. What I can tell you is, even if you had a highly cooperative situation, there's no method right now in military policy to move that, to help that co-parent move. There's no financial, backing to move two households. You get paid to move your one household, but that would leave your co-parent in a lurch. The next one is, I think, something that really needs to be focused on. And Mark, when Erhan and I had the privilege of speaking at your virtual shared parenting conference several weeks ago, we unfortunately had to cut this one short. It is highly technical, but there's the star chamber of military administrative processes in the military justice system, and the propensity for those processes to be abused by someone on the other side of an adversarial custody process, to be abused or misused in bad faith. And so there's two programs. There's as already mentioned, the Uniform Code of Military Justice. It's pretty darn easy, unfortunately, for a party trying to throw sand in the gears of a service member's career to file an inspector general complaint or call some sort of hotline and lob some sort of false allegation that will immediately cast that person in a bad light in their workplace with their boss, and may quickly encumber them in a criminal investigation that's carried out against them in their workplace. Every output of which, because in the military we love to document things, and so every bit of documentation that comes out of a process like that can now be used to kind of portray a false narrative in a civilian court. So whether it's allegations of failing to support, withholding financial support, allegations of, drug and alcohol use, or more towards the nexus with this second program I'm going to mention, the family advocacy program, allegations of, family violence or interpersonal conflict that arise so frequently in custody situations. So there's a congressionally mandated program that every branch of service, including the Coast Guard and the Space Force, have, called the Family Advocacy Program. A rough way to think of them is an employee-sponsored, employee-run version of Child Protective Services that would exist in a state context without the sort of oversight of being closely associated with a family court and the sort of due process protections that would come from that in a state context. So what can happen to a service member? Let's say you're 2 years into custody litigation, and approaching that, the service member parent having to accept new orders on that permanent change of station treadmill to their next assignment. And let's say that, that drives the temperature up because there's this impending military deadline it's a freight train rolling outside of the purview or authority of the state court that has jurisdiction over the children, and the issue of custody share. And so let's say one parent, let's say in this case, the civilian parent sees this happening and panics and acts out of fear and thinks, what can I do? Well, one thing you can do is you can be involved in a lot of sort of online military divorce, networking groups or social media circles, and you might hear encouragement. Well, just go to like, did he hit you? Just go to FAP, meaning Family Advocacy Program. If there is any allegation, however credible or not credible, of family harm, of interpersonal violence made to the Family Advocacy Program, the family advocacy caseworker will start an investigation. They'll open a FAP file, and they are obligated by policy to formalize that report that, maybe it came from a walk-in sit-down appointment, or maybe it was a phone call, or maybe an email. And that has to get handed off to a military criminal investigator. And that would be our civilian military criminal investigative offices that, like, think NCIS for the Navy, Office of Special Investigations, I think is what it's called in the Air Force. Every branch of service has this mostly civilian, government employee-led investigations branch. So now all of a sudden, with, say just an email allegation of, last year Johnny hit me and I was scared and I didn't tell anyone until now, but now I'm worried about, losing control of my kids, and my co-parents acting more erratic, and I'm fearful. Sounds reasonable enough, but what has to be considered is the context in which it arrives and what the motivations might be. But before any of that's considered, the chain of command has no discretion to evaluate that and evaluate the context and say, what, maybe we need to scrutinize this claim. And so there's no what you would in a civilian context call investigatory or prosecutorial discretion. And so it's off to the races. All of a sudden you're under investigation by two bodies, FAP, social workers, and, NCIS, again, in a Navy context, Military Criminal Investigation Office, investigating with the force of your chain of command's authority to interdict pretty much all those services that we talked about, all those things that come from the federal government as part of your military life. All those can be taken away, including your employment, including your freedom. We have a maximum security prison in Leavenworth and minimum security ones or moderate security ones in San Diego and Charleston. So yeah, we run our own prisons too. The key problem here is, by the way, if the alleged crime or alleged harm, it falls into a category of serious crimes, the sort of level of supervision on the criminal investigatory and prosecutorial side elevates even higher to bodies that are now called the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Each branch of service now has an Office of the Special Prosecutor. And, I want to caveat, all these programs are well-intentioned and they do good. There's a big nexus with the creation of this Office of Special Prosecutors with the elimination of military sexual assault. And that's a big deal. It needs to happen. No amount of military sexual trauma, whatever the genders involved, is acceptable within the ranks. But there's a lot of machinery and a lot of firepower aimed at stamping these, alleged crimes out without due process. And so the FAP is best thought of as a star chamber. The decision standard, the evidentiary standard, is preponderance of the information, not even evidence. There's no rules of evidence. Anyone can basically put anything in. The bottom line is there's no formal right of review. There's no one of the quick things that can happen is a military protective order, again, would come under the authority of your boss, your chain of command, and sort of the equivalent of a civilian protective order. But a civilian protective order, at least there's, even if it's granted ex parte initially, meaning a judge who would sign off on it doesn't give the alleged offender an opportunity to be heard or even be aware. An emergency protective order can be granted ex parte, but in every state, as a matter of due process under the 14th Amendment, there's a right eventually for the person governed under that order to confront the evidence against them and confront their accuser and provide a rebuttal. No such due process exists in the military context, not formally anyway. And there's no judicial body. There's no neutral party. This is your boss. This is your boss doing this, or their military JAG officer, their military lawyer, who 100% is partial to support the chain of command. So this is you could not probably design a better way to whitewash a false allegation into a ton of encumbrances that are direct and immediately vesting on the accused, that also have the knockoff effect of burning time in the civilian litigation and producing this large paper trail of bureaucracy that can then be trotted into a civilian court and basically with a word said, well, the military thinks this guy or gal is so dangerous that they've got a protective order. Your Honor, there's no way this person can be a parent. And unfortunately, I won't name names, but I have, in my last 2 years as starting to become an advocate in this area, I can tell you dozens of names of still serving service members, folks who've gotten out, and veterans who've had that tactic employed against them. So there's some hardcore constitutional issues here. FAP is entirely constitutionally unsound, even if it does do some good things to provide services where there truly are meritorious victims of family violence. What DOD, in my opinion, actively ignores, and I say actively because I've tried to advocate internally for this, is while on this virtuous quest to eliminate family violence, eliminate military sexual assault, we don't give a darn about collateral damage. And that's a huge problem. So that's an area that's going to absolutely take congressional involvement to fix. Erhan can speak far more eloquently about proposed resolution. The good thing here is the United States of America had a similar problem with adjudicative bodies on college campuses, and a process that could put accused college kids through the same sort of star chamber type, no due process experience, and recognize that it was a problem. And, Congress was able to fix that. So there's a precedent for getting this right. The military community, obviously much smaller, but very important to fix. So I think I'll pause there, Mark. There's a whole universe of other topics we could talk about. And I'm going to apologize to folks, some folks who emailed me or messaged me earlier today about things they'd want to hear about. But I do want to stop there and let you ask any questions or maybe move the conversation along.
Yeah, and we do have the representative on hold here, but I do want to thank you very much. I think you gave a good overview of things that people in the military aren't aware of realizing, wait a minute, these, the PCS orders where you're moving every 2 to 3 years, and the fact that, that is, it's hard for a spouse to be able to have a career if they're going to be moving every few years. And, the family advocacy process, the military administration programs. I mean, you've given a pretty good overview. I do want to have you on again in the future and delve even more in depth. If we could, if everybody can go ahead, if you're in the military, first off, we want to thank you for your service, big time. But can you guys do me a favor? In the comments, put what branch, because as a matter of fact, I know Brian Lee, the person who's hosting this, that does all the back office stuff for this. I believe, I'm pretty sure Brian was in the Marines. But if everybody can go ahead and put in the comments section, put if you're retired military or if you're current military and what branch of service that you're in. And also, if you can go to the stlmarkludwig.com website and sign up for the newsletter, because we're going to be reaching out to people that have military backgrounds as we put the team together. As I said, we want to be very careful that we grow in a manageable form and that we use a vetting strategy. We don't want to do call to actions where everybody and their brother is doing things, and sometimes people do more damage than good if they're not vetted and haven't been trained. So step one of the vetting process, go to stlmarkludwig.com, register for the newsletter, and I'll be putting out information on how you can get involved in the military program that Medhi and Erhan are going to be leading. But we do have some neat things planned. But like I said, if you guys can do me a favor, in the comments, put, Brian, Brian was in the Marines. I was thinking that. But yeah, if you guys can put in the comment section, what branch of service. But Medhi, I do want to thank you. And Medhi is what I look for. Anytime I'm looking for an advocate, two things I look for is, number one, are they team players or is it all about them? Medhi is definitely a team player. And a lot of times that people with the military have that philosophy a lot of time, because in the military, you have to depend on your team. But I also love the fact that he's a dad first. We get a lot of advocates over the years that I've seen that they start advocating and all of a sudden you never see them posting anything about their kids anymore. And I'm like, the whole reason you're doing this, I think some of you know, I had an opportunity to potentially get a position at the White House this year. And I turned down the opportunity because, Levi's 15 years old right now. And I'm like, there's no way in the world they're going to miss age 15 before he gets his driver's license. And then he's already too cool to be with dad now, to be honest. But at least I'm in the same place with him. We get to do some running and stuff like that. We watch Survivor reruns together all the time here. We'll be watching more tonight. We're on season 24 right now. But what I love about Medhi is Medhi picked me up at the airport about a year ago. And when he did, he was like, man, I feel bad, but if you don't mind, I get my kids tonight. So can we stop by? I was like, oh my gosh, absolutely. So we went to the park and we spent about an hour or so at the park playing with the boys. We had a great time with them. But guys, if you're an advocate, your kids are number one. Advocacy is number two. And if you don't have that alignment, we don't want you on the team. We want people, their priorities are there. And I can promise you this, guys. That's why I love having Medhi as the one of my military advisors. I know his priorities are in the right place. So Medhi, thank you very much for coming on tonight. We did put your email up there. So if anybody wants to contact Medhi directly, go ahead. We've had the email up there, but I do want to get the representative on. So Medhi, thanks again. I appreciate you. And we'll be having you back on again in the future.
Thank you so much, Mark. Always appreciate it.
All right. Next person I want to bring on is another neat guy that you can definitely tell his priorities in the right place. Periodically, I do a lot of teaching for homeschool groups where I teach government classes and stuff like that. And so a lot of times they ask me to take them on tours of the capitals. And I took a group to the Illinois State Capitol about a year or two ago, and Representative Davis took time out of his day to spend some time with the kids and show them around the Springfield Capitol. And he's another one. You can tell his heart's in the right place. And, it's neat to have legislators that are great legislators, but more important to me is what kind of person are they? And I can tell you, the guy that I'm about ready to bring on right now, his heart is in the right place. So Representative Davis, there we go. From the great state of Illinois, and I think you're just like north central Illinois.
Yeah, I'm north of 80. Anything south of 80 is southern Illinois.
Excellent. And how many terms have you been in now? Is this your second term?
Yeah, no, I'm in my second term. So we're in only about 2.5 years. So I'm kind of fresh chicken down there in Springfield.
No, I remember talking to you when you first got elected. It is. Yeah, that first is a freshman year. There's so much thrown at people. There's a lot more to being a legislator than people realize. And a lot of times legislators get a bad reputation. People think, oh, they're just in it for the money. And I'm like, if you saw the little salary they get and the hours they put in for that salary, I don't know of any legislator that's in it for the money. I can't picture that happening at the state level.
Yeah, no, it is eye-opening. It is an incredible honor to be an elected official and be a voice of constituents across a pretty broad and diverse district. But Springfield is it needs a lot of work. So we're trying to bring some change there day by day, and it's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah, well, I guess give us a little bit of a background of what you do before you were a legislator, and tell us a little bit about your family life and your hobbies and a little bit about who you are.
For sure. I'm a family man. I mean, I'm a foster parent as well. So we've got three biological kids. And then we've adopted our youngest, and we have a current foster senior in high school as well. So kind of 5 kids all together. Became a grandparent a year or so ago. So that's kind of a lot of fun. I kind of experienced what everyone's talked about for so long, but family is such a blessing. And man, raising kids is an honor and a scary endeavor because it is just full of uncertainty. There's no instruction manual, but man, is it rewarding, as I'm sure everyone on the call knows. Civil engineer by degree, was a village trustee. I live in a town of 1,000 people, so not a lot happens, but just really felt compelled to run for the state house through some crazy situations here in Illinois that COVID kind of produced. Ended up getting sued by the governor at one point for, I was part of a Christian school. I was the school board president. Our school got sued for kind of not following the rule of law here in Illinois, but that was a catalyst to kind of get me to where I am today. And it's been fun it's fun looking back on life. I'm sure everyone can relate. All the little puzzle pieces that might not make sense in the moment. When you look back, you can kind of see how God pieced them all together, and just thankful for each day we get to live.
We're grateful to have you as a in the short term until LaShawn Ford had been our champion of equal shared parenting, but he's running for U.S. Congress now. And LaShawn has been a great supporter of ours for years. So I think you are moving into the senior equal shared parenting legislator for us coming up. Yeah. But so very grateful to have you in there. And like I said, I just love the fact that anytime I need to get a hold of you, you're always there. And but yeah, if you want to speak a little bit too to let people know that legislators are definitely willing, that the whole reason you're there is to serve people, but maybe give some advice too for people because occasionally we get people who are a little overzealous in reaching out to legislators or trying to get legislation passed. Any tips or advice that you have as a legislator for people wanting to get involved in the legislative process?
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sad to see LaShawn Ford kind of move on. He's been in that seat for a while, and it was one of the first bills I jumped on. He's on the other side of the aisle than me, so we can be definitely different people at times. But man, it was the first chief co-sponsorship I had as a newly elected state rep was a parental rights bill with LaShawn, and happy to do that. It was when I kind of got connected to you as well, Mark, and just a great experience, and kind of just happy to continue to champion that cause here in Illinois. And it is. And again, back to the accessibility part that you mentioned, if you can get a hold of your elected official, I think that's hogwash. I don't even know if that's the word, but I think you know what I'm saying. It drives me nuts. I broadcast my cell phone everywhere. I had to fight our legal team to put it on my mailer, my year-end end of session mailer. They're like, we strongly advise you don't do that. And this is my mailer. We're putting my cell phone on it. So I ran on the platform of accessibility, and people don't abuse it. It's not like we're the president or the governor. We're an elected official of a manageable area, and if you should be accessible to the public. Out of that accessibility, people have a lot of great ideas for legislation, and I am all ears on them, but you want to definitely be strategic. You can kind of flood the market, per se. That whole expression, less is more, at times. So you want to be very strategic. When ideas come in, I'll write them down, but often I'll look to see, has there been any legislation proposed in years past that is still in motion? Because you would love to think it's like a light switch. Here's a great idea, flip it, and it comes on. And that sometimes happens, but for the most part, man, these bills are very nuanced and they can take years to get across the finish line. So if you're having a fresh idea, I would definitely recommend, contact your state rep, your state senator, but maybe spend some time on the website and see if your state website, and just do some searches. I'm sure ChatGPT could find it. Is there any legislation around that theme in existence? And if there is, reach out to that individual. Encourage your sitting rep that is you're their constituent to reach out to the sponsor of that bill and build momentum behind that. Because sometimes, again, less is more. And if you flood the market, you kind of dilute the importance of bills that have been worked on year after year. I'm by no means suggesting don't file new legislation. Sometimes there's no other choice. But I would first to see, is there a horse in the race? How close is it to the finish line? And what can I do to help push it along instead of starting all the way back at the gates?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's a big frustration I have is, I've been around, I've been in politics for 40 years, but I've been working on shared parenting legislation for 11 years now, and up to 31 states that I worked on last year. And a lot of people don't realize, even though a state may not have passed a bill, that doesn't mean nothing's been going on in that state. There's times we've had teams of people working with legislators for 3, 4, 5 years, building a team, building some consensus, building collaborations. And somebody comes in and they want to file 8 new bills. And I'm like, oh my gosh, no, you are going to we're going to lose some of the sponsors that we had because you just saturated the state. So please do research, guys. If it's with shared parenting, give me a call, guys. I not to brag, but I don't know of anybody in the country that's worked in 31 states for 11 years that I have got a database of over 700 legislators I've met with, but more importantly, local people too, because that's the key. You want to have, who are the people who have sponsored in the state, but also who do the legislators have a relationship with already? It's going to be so much easier to work with people that already have that relationship with the legislator than to try and bring someone new in. So I'm glad you brought that up. And then too, I think too, if you can speak a little bit, because you bring up a good point with LaShawn being on the opposite of the aisle. And this is the beauty of our topic is shared parenting is the only issue I've seen in my years of politics that crosses racial lines, gender lines, social lines, party lines, everything. But there are party lines. And some people think, well, this needs to be nonpartisan. And I'm like, no, it needs to be bipartisan. Nonpartisan means you ignore both parties. So we need bipartisan. You just need to understand, you and I are on one side of the aisle compared to LaShawn, but LaShawn and I have a great friendship. I just know I don't bring up other issues to him that are going to irk him off. And he doesn't do the same to me. He knows I support a lot of Trump policies. So he doesn't ever give me a jab about Trump. And I would never do the same thing with him about Biden or Obama. Matter of fact, he just had, you probably saw, he met with Biden, I guess, 2 weeks ago or something. Yeah. And I had a picture. And it doesn't matter whether I agree with Biden politically or not. As a friend, I was excited for LaShawn to have his picture with that. And so I think that's one key, is to understand, to compartmentalize that, hey, if we're trying to get shared parenting legislation, now it's a little different for you because you're going to be dealing with those issues with the other issues. For the most of us, they don't need to deal with us on the other issues. So I always tell people, if your main purpose is shared parenting legislation, compartmentalize and check the rest of your politics at the door when you're meeting with a legislator, and learn to work with both sides of the aisle. And you've done a great job of that, actually. And LaShawn has pretty much too. I mean, like I said, you and I disagree with him about a lot of issues, but he's usually at least willing to listen on any issue that I've heard. He'll disagree, but he'll at least listen.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that is a great point. And man, I love trying to find synergy across the aisle. Springfield is we're out of balance. I'm in the super minority down there. My caucus is the Republicans. So if I want to get anything done legislatively, I have no other option than to go across the aisle. And I wish it was like that really across the nation. I talk to people in other states where they're in super majority Republican states, and some of the dysfunction they describe, I'm like, it's Springfield. You're describing Springfield. So anytime power gets so lopsided, I think it kind of just causes things to get out of whack. But man, if I can work across the aisle, and I have worked with people that are even way further apart than LaShawn and I, but we've been chief co-sponsors on great legislation. And some of the closing arguments in the debate is, man, if it's good for this rep and Jed Davis, this bill is good for everyone. And I think that we're just missing that so much. We live in such a divisive political narrative that we kind of forget that, yeah, this individual is my polar opposite, but if I can bring them along on this bill, it's a slam dunk, because that will get people's attention when these two come together on an issue. So absolutely, put your party aside. It's great to hold those values, and I am a very principled individual. But man, if you're trying to get a cause across the finish line, try to look past the R or the D on the back of the name and look for the cause and work in lockstep together, because that will get more attention than the predictable stuff that you see so much in today's media.
Yeah. And I guess one thing as we start wrapping up, not even on our issue, but just from a personal standpoint, what's been the most rewarding thing since you've been a legislator that just really hit you? You know what? I'm glad I'm doing this.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as a foster parent, one of the coolest things I've got to work on, it's kind of a parental right thing, but not completely. There's a big financial barrier to get foster parents signed up because your placements will literally come with nothing here in Illinois. And I'm sure other states throughout the nation, the clothes on their back, and that's about it. So if you bring 1 or 2 or 3, like a sibling group, into your home, you can be out of pocket thousands of dollars in school supplies and mattresses and car seats and all the stuff that you need. Kids are expensive, as we all know, and you don't get stipends from Illinois for sometimes 90 days. So it is a huge upfront expense without any kind of reimbursement. We were able to short circuit all of that and get written into policy with the Department of Children and Family Services that now every placement comes with a $500 prepaid gift card that you can use to go out and supply that child. So that was literally statewide change we were able to bring without passing a single law. So that it took a couple years to do. Again, back to this light switch thing, seldom happens, but super rewarding because I know it's having impact all across the state. And we didn't have to add another law because we have one too many of them here in Illinois. So it was nice. It was it just feels great to know that happened.
Oh, excellent. Well, thanks so much. I know you're a busy guy. I appreciate you taking time out on a Friday to come visit with us. But I know everybody likes to hear from legislators. And like I said, you've just been a great one as an example because you're always there. I think Brian put your email up there. So if you're in the state of Illinois, feel free to reach out to Representative Davis. We will be filing a bill again next year. So reach out to the representative and myself. Although someday my goal is to get you in DC in the U.S. Congress because we have some serious that I'm going to talk about after you come off. But I'm going to talk a little bit about Title 4D reform, which is the serious problem that we have with the funding mechanism in DC. So at some point, I don't want to put you on the spot or anything, but at some point, I want you in DC for us.
Yeah, one of these days, it's on the radar. God willing, we'll see how it all plays out.
Excellent. Well, thanks again. I appreciate you coming on, and we will be talking to you later.
You bet. Thank you.
All right, guys. I do appreciate Representative Davis. We've just got some great shared parenting supporters across the country. I talked to 3 of them today on the phone. But I did want to go through there's some pretty exciting things coming up at the federal level that I wanted to go through with some people. We had a neat little leadership Zoom meeting I was on today. We had leaders from 11 different major organizations all on one call. It's neat to see all the leaders of organizations all coming to work together, all collaborating, nobody worrying about who's getting the credit or the recognition. We're just locking arms saying, let's get the job done. Let's focus on the kids and everybody focus on our areas of strength. And we sure have some great leaders across the country. So I will be teaming up with got my eye on a bunch of leaders that I'm going to be putting together a phone call with, a Zoom meeting with some leaders. I know I've got, I don't know if Sean Pearson's watching this, and John Hamill, Ryan Powell with the unmarried father. Ryan has Stella tonight, and because I had asked him to come on tonight, and he was, Mark, I have Stella tonight. And I'll tell you what, that's what I'm looking for. That's the kind of leader that I want. The type of leader who puts their kids first over the advocacy. Because if you forget about your kids while you're doing the advocacy, you're no good to the team. You're really not. That's not what we're looking for. So very proud of Ryan for making that decision. But we'll have Ryan back on. And Nicole, definitely have Nicole with Parental Alienation Resource Center. Josh Thomas with TFRM. I think I saw Josh Thomas was on here. I also do want to give a shout out to Mama Jones who's watching. Mama Jones has had some health challenges the last couple of years. We've been saying a lot of prayers for her. And we definitely have, we're not done with you, Linda. We're going to need you for another 10 years here. So get ready. But I did want to go ahead and announce a few things that we do have coming up. I am going back to DC September 7th through the 11th. And already have some pretty impressive meetings booked. I've got 4 meetings booked. 2 of them are very, very impressive. So I don't want to say too much, but I think you can probably read between the lines and figure out where one of those meetings is going to take place. But you're going to want to see some Facebook Lives. I can promise you on September 8th, which is the Tuesday or is that the Monday? I think that's the Monday, September 8th and September 9th. I will definitely be doing a Facebook Live on both of those nights that I can promise you guys are going to want to tune in and pay attention to. It's going to be a pretty exciting time. There's some other groups going to be up there, ironically, the same week I'm up there working on Title IV-E issues, and I want to give a shout out to them. These guys have been doing a great job. Kathleen Arthur and Connie Reguly have poured their life into Title IV-E and CPS changes, and just so proud of them. Kathleen Arthur, they will be up there with me, and we'll probably be in a couple of meetings together, but they're working more on CPS issues, but they've done a great job. And I know Terry LaPointe's going to be up there, and I think Bailey from Illinois is going to be up there. I don't know if Bailey's watching or not. She just got a Make-A-Wish trip down to Disneyland with her son. It was just kind of neat to see some of the pictures of her and her son down in Disneyland a couple of weeks ago. But so a big week coming up in September. Let's see, what else do we have? Oh, the week after that, September 21st, I'll be in Boston. So we're going to be doing, we don't have a location yet. If you're in the greater Boston area and you can help us find a location in Boston, we're going to need a venue from about noon till 3 on Sunday, September 21st. Then on the next Sunday, September 28th, is going to be the next virtual conference. We're going to put Brian Lee to work again. And it won't be as long, though. The last one we did was over 6 hours long. This one's going to be a 3-hour one. We're going to try and get different speakers. It's so hard. We have so many great leaders in the shared parenting community, and I feel bad because there's just so many that I want to get some time out there. So we're going to try and put some different people on in September than we had on the previous one. But plan on that. Sunday, September 28th will be a virtual conference. In November, this is big. Pay attention. For those of you that want to get involved at the federal level with Title IV-D, these September meetings that I have coming up at the White House, there's two things that I wasn't supposed to say that, but there's some very important meetings coming up in September, but there's two issues that we're working on at the federal level. One of which is Title IV-D reform, which is the funding mechanism that is creating a lot of the problems. And the other is creating a commission for boys and men with the White House. Both of those will be game changers at the state level. Doesn't matter what kind of laws we pass at the state level, guys. We're going to be like the hamster on a treadmill until we get Title IV-D changed and or get a commission for boys and men. That's how we really get change, because that's how we get people that 24/7, their goal when they wake up is to figure out how can we get barriers away from people who are wanting to be fathers to their children. So Dr. Warren Farrell has been leading the charge on that. He has some excellent ideas. I've got the connections with the White House. I've got 11 acquaintances now, 4 very good friends. It was funny because yesterday on my timeline, it came up. Levi and I, a year ago today, were at Trump's house in Bedminster with Ed Martin, who a lot of you know, who is now with the Department of Justice, and Will Scharf, who is now the legislative director. Anytime you see Trump, usually within 5 or 10 feet, you'll see Will right behind him. Literally meets with him pretty much all day, every day. 2 St. Louis boys. So it's just kind of neat to have 2 very, very good friends that far in the White House. Got 2 other good friends that I've worked with a lot on campaigns that are also in positions that are going to help us out on those issues. So we're going to use Warren's ideas and my connections. Warren will probably be going with me on one of these trips to the White House. I also plan on bringing Don Hubin from NPO to talk about some Title IV-D reform, Ron Henry with Family Reunion. And once again, that's why we need a team of people. We're all not experts. My experts is the connections, the negotiations, understanding the culture, the art, and the science, but you're still going to bring some experts on topics. So that's where a Warren Farrell, a Ron Henry, a Don Hubin, those type of people. Brian Ulrich will probably be with me on some of these meetings. So we'll be bringing some of those topic experts. Molly Olson will be coming with me on some of those trips. But in November, there's going to be one of those type of trips. And this will be one of the first ones that we're going to open it up a little bit. We do want it semi-vetted. But the Davia team and the International Council for Men and Boys with Ed Bartlett and Larry DeMarco, Bob Thompson, are having a conference that they're wanting me to help organize. They're wanting me to put together a press conference on, I believe it's Tuesday, and then I'll be doing a lobby training for people, and then we'll be doing a lobbying day at the Capitol on the Hill. And I'm going to be bringing a team of people with me that'll be going with me, but to be a part of that, I need you a part of that legislative leadership development program. And it just, there's no exceptions to that because we are at the highest level. This is not like dealing at the state. Dealing with U.S. Congress is a totally different ballgame. It's the difference between playing softball in a Wednesday night league and playing professional baseball in a professional stadium for millions of dollars a year. That big of a difference in the art and the science. So it's going to be critical. If you're wanting to be a part of going with me on my teams in November, I need you to make sure that you're a part of the Legislative Leadership Development Program. And we're going to be talking a lot between now and November about what we're going to be doing on the Hill. We're going to have teams of people talking about the Title IV-D reform and other teams of people talking about the Commission for Boys and Men. We're going to have special trainings. We're going to have talking points. We're going to have different sheets giving you step-by-step exactly what to do and a strategic focus on who we're meeting with. So if you're interested in being a part of that, go to stlmarkludwig.com. There's 3 things on the stlmarkludwig.com. One is just register for the newsletter. That'll give you at least once a month or twice a month updates of different things going on. There's also the training class. The next one will be in October. But the third thing is the membership for the Legislative Leadership Development Program. So if you're interested, I'm going to be doing some special things for people because some people have never been to DC. And so if you're interested, let me know. And if you're a part of the LLDP program, I'm going to be putting together some special tours where we'll take you down in the tunnels underneath the Capitol, and I'll introduce you, and you'll get a chance to meet several members of Congress. We'll get you some photo ops and several things like that. But then we're also going to have some serious lobbying. But once again, if you want to be a part of the team that I'm taking to the Capitol on those days, I need you to be a part of that Legislative Leadership Development Program. So it is $30 a month. Half of that goes to Nick and Vanessa, who put all the logistics together on the website. What they've got up there now is already worth it. They've got a neat platform already set up. But this is going to be a one-stop resource shop for you to teach and train you step by step. What do you say? How do you get past the gatekeeper? We're going to have video clips of some of the best testimonies from around the country at different House and Senate hearings, so you can get an idea. We've got an AI tool that you can type in different information about your case, about the type of bill that you want to advocate for, and it'll spit out a letter for you to mail to your legislator. So a lot of information on that program. The first Sunday of every month, I do an open town hall where I talk about what's been going on the previous month and what's going on the next month, both at the state and federal level. Then we open it up for Q&A. Ask me anything you want. And then the second Tuesday of every month, we have a training class. This last week, we did Title IV-D, where we spent 2 hours diving in depth into the history of Title IV-D. What are the mechanisms of Title IV-D? What are the problems with Title IV-D? What are the solutions? And every month, we're going to have a new topic like that that's all included in that $30 price. And then with my half of the money, I use that to try and help offset some of the costs, because these costs to DC are pretty darn expensive. Very, very expensive, as a matter of fact. This next trip to DC is not going to be cheap. So if you want to be a part of that, make sure you go to stlmarkludwig.com, stlmarkludwig.com. Click on membership for Legislative Leadership Development Program. But that'll be the first week in November that we're going to be up there. And there'll be a lot of people up there for that. The Davia team, the International Council for Men and Boys. And then I'm going to be doing some special things probably the day before for people who are a part of the Legislative Leadership Development Program. Like I said, I'll take you on some private tours, get you a chance to meet in person some different members of U.S. Congress, as well as doing some actual lobbying. Then in December, on December 4th and 5th, we're going to be down in Dallas, and we're going to have a live shared parenting conference. We've got several legislators that have already confirmed from multiple different states around the country, and we're going to be putting together a game plan for different bills that we're filing in December. And it was funny that Jed mentioned that, because that is a problem that we've had in the past, is people get a little overzealous and they want to file, bills on all kinds of different things. Guys, before you do that, Some of you didn't know my background, but even though I had a 30-year background in legislation, and I mean at the top levels, I mean, I ran for U.S. Congress. I served on the Small Business Policy Council during the Blunt administration here in the state of Missouri. I had been trained by the best of the best, Phyllis Schlafly, Leadership Institute, Morton Blackwell, Newt Gingrich, Kellyanne Conway. But when I became involved in the shared parenting community, I spent a year as part of the fathers' rights movement, but never stuck my head above the water. I studied first. And when I studied, it just wasn't a small thing. I mean, I spent hours and hours and hours every week doing research. What bills have been filed in what states? What's been tried in these states? Who are the leaders in these states? What legislators are the leaders? You don't blindly walk into a state and file a bill. Number one, you better do your history. You better find out, number one, who are the local advocates? Because if a legislator's been working with local advocates, it's so much better to partner and team with them and keep those relationships going than start a brand new one. One big problem we've had in many states is we've had 2 or 3 people file the same bill in different states. And do you know how upsetting that is for the main person we've been working with? If we've got a bill sponsor that we've built a relationship up with for 3, 4, 5 years, and legislation normally doesn't pass in the first year. You know, Missouri took 9 years for it to pass. Kentucky took several years for it to pass. Florida took, I think, 15 years to pass. It takes a while to pass legislation. And a lot of people think, well, gosh, it's taken too long. We're going to do something different. Well, you want to do a few things different, but you better be careful because you're going to blow 8 years worth of progress that things have been doing behind the scenes. And one thing you're going to do is you're going to lose a powerful bill sponsor because they're going to get ticked off that somebody else across the aisle sponsored the bill that they've been working on for 3 or 4 years. And that's one thing that we're going to be working on. So that's part of that legislative leadership development team that I'm putting together is I want a team of people that we're doing the research. Do we know who the local advocates are? Do we know what legislators? Do we know the problems legislators have had? You know, I can tell you in 31 states that I've been involved with, and it's not just a phone call. I've been in those states. I've spent hours and hours and hours with the local advocates, with the different legislators. So if you're interested in helping with a state, I'd love to have you help. But please reach out to me and let's talk about the history of what's gone on in your state so that we don't ruin it and take 5 to 7 years to clean up the damage. So I'm willing to work with anybody, any team, any bill, any place. I just say, let's take a strategic approach. And no different than the best baseball player in the world has a batting coach that analyzes things from a different perspective. You know, Jack Welch, you know, with GE, one of the biggest success stories in American business history. Jack Welch had a mentor, Noel Tichy. And, Noel Tichy was able to look at things at a different perspective than Jack Welch was when he was the, chair of GE and did all the changes that led to the good to great that GE had. So we are putting together a team of people, but like I said, the opening window of that, if you're wanting to be a part of these programs, please, especially if you're wanting to go with me to DC, because like I said, we're needing a team. And this is in the past, I've been sort of preparing the way. A lot of the way is going to be prepared with the September trip. This will be probably the most important trip that we've ever had at the federal level with the White House Commission for Boys and Men and with efforts with Title 4D. So after September, now we're going to need to start bringing advocates with us. So if you're wanting to be a part of that trip to DC in November, I need you a part of the Legislative Leadership Development Program, and then reach out to me personally and let me know, because we're going to be doing some special things if people want to be a part of that team. So pretty much wraps it up. I appreciate every single one of you. I do want to give a shout out once again to Brian Lee, who is always giving, always serving. And then once again, that's the type of guy I'm looking for, the type of guy that is not worried about the credit. I'll tell you what, Brian Lee has worked his butt off more than 99.99999% of anybody I've seen in the last 11 years in the shared parenting community. And it's never about the credit. It's never about the recognition. It's always, hey, what can I do to help? You know, Brian worked tonight and just barely got off work in time to set this whole thing up tonight. That's the kind of leader that I want on my team. So thanks again, Brian. I appreciate you. Everybody else, thanks so much. Oh, I do see Josh Thomas on here. Josh, thanks so much for what you do with TFRM. I appreciate you. Don't know if Ryan's watching or not with Stella tonight, But enjoy your time with Stella. And guys, that's it for now. We will talk to y'all. I may talk Brian in. We might be doing another one next Friday night. So stay tuned and we will talk to y'all later.